it's important to understand that law is a reflection of the values that society holds. So states and countries need strong laws to protect children and laws to prohibit domestic violence. And we have those laws in the United States. My work has been to make sure that those laws are implemented effectively. So I have worked with the police department in the city of Philadelphia, partly because they were doing a very bad job in investigating sexual assault. 10 years ago, I led a reform effort to improve that. And it has improved. That's what is the really good news. But in order for that reform effort to be effective, and what I have learned, any reform effort, you need lots of partners in it. So as lawyers, we of course understood the law, but we needed to know about criminology. So we talked to criminologists. Very important for us to understand that. It was journalists who first exposed the scandal that the police department was not investigating sex crimes. So we continued to work with journalists because transparency, public information is extremely important. We found elected officials who actually were in charge of the budget for the police department. So we asked our public officials to hold public hearings to, again, inform the public. So the combination of working with journalists, with criminologists, with lawyers, with elected officials really helped bring about the social change that was necessary in Philadelphia. And we have used that lesson to continue to work with the police department so that we now are really improving their response to domestic violence. We have new projects because we understand that the first person who responds to a scene, and if that is the police person, the policeman or the policewoman, that response has to be a good response. They can't blame the victim. They have to be able to communicate to the victim that what happened to her was not her fault. So we've focused a lot on police response in Philadelphia, and I think it's working. It started out as a confrontation. It started out as a very adversarial relationship. And now I think we have a strong partnership and a collaboration. Now that doesn't mean they do everything that they should do. It doesn't mean that we win all the time, but at least we come to the table and we collaborate and we talk issues through. What I'm working on now is trying to bring the information that has been presented so much at this conference about the psychological effects of experiencing sexual violence, physical violence in childhood and in adulthood, to start integrating that with law enforcement so that we are all better informed that health and social services understands law enforcement understands some of the psychological dimensions and healthcare dimensions related to violence against women. The way it started in the United States, actually, about 40 years ago, was women themselves said, we've had enough. Women organized all over the country. It was not the police, it was not the prosecutors, and they started speaking. And I was one of them, started demanding better laws and better care. And we were quite successful in that. I never underestimate the power of women's voices. And it's also very important to have male partners and male allies in it. So our success in part depended on being able to work with the men who were in power and finding the men who were in power who cared about these issues and supporting them in whatever ways we could and asking them to support our issues. I think that this conference provided so much knowledge. The sharing of knowledge here was so important. I hope in the future, and I hope this will not be just the only conference. I hope that many more conferences like this happen. I am the only lawyer who's at this conference and who is presenting. So I'm hoping in the future that we will have more lawyers. I just listened to an economist, and his information was incredibly valuable. He's from the United States, and I didn't know him, and I didn't know his work. I just invited him to Philadelphia. So networking, sharing knowledge, And I think bringing together various disciplines, because none of the issues we're dealing with are simple issues. None of them will be resolved overnight. It's a long, long campaign because, quite frankly, for hundreds if not thousands of years, our laws and institutions have allowed men to control women and children, allowed children to be beaten and abused. Our laws permitted that for many, many years. So we're only now starting to change the culture. And it's going to be a long road ahead, but each time we meet and share knowledge and meet new people, we advance the agenda. JUCONI is a wonderful organization. It's a model. We learn from it. We are so excited that JUCONI could bring together this kind of conference, and they brought it together because of the experience they have had doing the work they've done. That they've listened to the children, they've understood their needs, they understand family needs, they don't try to impose themselves on children. It's a wonderful organization and it's a model for the world.